Hello, everybody.
Welcome to the Prayer Sphere, the first one. And I think, Chris, I'm probably going to go on and make sure that everybody knows we're live as well on all of the social media lines that we have out there right now.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. It's Larkin and Chris from the Enhancing Your World show. This has been something that we've been talking about for a while. And the first thing I think we're going to mention, just while we're waiting for everybody to log on, and welcome if you guys are on the live broadcast or if you are watching on the replay. Typically you hear people talk about a prayer circle, and we've decided to call this one the prayer sphere because there are so many dimensions. And, it's not just a two-dimensional or three-dimensional thing. We really want to discuss what prayer is today, the power of prayer individually and collectively. And we want to really bring it down to a practical level so that you all can apply it and really understand what is just, talk, what are just things everyone's accustomed to doing or believing about prayer, and what actual effective and powerful prayer is, both individually and collectively. I think there's a lot of questions, Chris, that people have, because I think there's a lot of teaching and, history that goes into our belief and understanding about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, you also find a lot of people saying, my prayers, feeling that their prayers don't work or their prayers aren't heard, or they think they're doing it wrong, all that kind of stuff. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to pop in and answer a lot of those questions.
Right.
And I know I'm saying this before a lot of people pop on, so we'll definitely repeat all of this, but get those questions answered that hopefully most of you have. And then talk about what true and authentic prayer is, collective and individual prayer, and how to really pray effectively and powerfully so that you all know the difference and might understand why you feel like your prayer isn't working. We want you guys to understand that prayer really does work, but there are true and authentic ways to pray, and it may not be what you think it is. Right, Chris?
Right. Hey, Anne-Marie.
Hi there. Welcome. Oh, I'm so glad. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I think we're gonna just kind of chat and let you guys know what this is gonna be about for a few minutes until more people log on. But there are so many questions revolving around prayer, and there have been really for thousands of years. I think it's one of those things where when something's around a long time and it becomes very familiar, you think that you know what it is. Right? And so there's not just, decades that go into this of belief, but we're talking about thousands of years of belief and interpretation and teachings by different sects of religion or spirituality or philosophy, individual prayer or beliefs and understanding, as well as what is being taught to the masses. And if you think about it, that's come through each of your families and your friends and your colleagues and your churches or your religious or spiritual beliefs. It's come through to all of those, and then it's presented, and then we each have some sort of assumptions that we make, and then we as individuals try to apply this. And what ends up happening is we get frustrated, we feel hopeless and helpless, and oftentimes we feel like it's our own personal mistake when we don't see the results that we want. And so those are some things we're going to cover today, and hopefully fill in the misunderstandings and the gaps there for you. and take things down and simplify them so that you can get off of here today feeling more connected and more empowered and have a better understanding of how to actually create effective prayer. Chris, is there anything you'd like to really share in this intro here for us?
The other thing that, of course, I want to invite everybody to post any questions that you have so we can be specific for your needs or curiosities rather than just coming from always our what we're currently channeling in this present moment. But one of the things that I also want to illuminate on is unanswered prayers. And, we're not smarter than the universe or the collective as an individual. So sometimes, we think we want a certain outcome, or a certain result, or a certain reward or pleasure or something like that. And we become hyper focused on that one way of perceiving life. And when we have a redirection, we have an opportunity, something else comes in for us, to remain open-minded, open-hearted, with gratitude, because these are the things that help us grow beyond these past teachings, beliefs, thoughts, on the way we see the world and our reality. That's why I'm excited about this, because, to tell my personal quick background, I've always had this sense of connection with spirit and nature. So I've always considered myself a somewhat spiritual in nature person, but I never really followed any religion. It didn't fit for me. So prayer for me wasn't something, I thought it was more like a wish or a hope. What I've learned through my own experience is creating that mental vision of what you ultimately desire, and then putting your energy behind it. As far as, how are you moving through each and every moment of the day, will help lead us to those prayers, to those outcomes. If we want to see peace outside of us, we need to find peace within us first. Because if we're reacting to things that we can't control, like other people's actions and behaviors, and their words and things like that, then it's a sense of disempowerment. And I don't want to complicate things or bring anyone down on the way. But the way that I interpreted prayer was, you were asking something outside of yourself for something that you weren't willing to commit to yourself. One of my mentors in my teenage years shared with me some wisdom, and it's always kind of resonated with me, that, God will not do anything for you that you can do yourself. That's why you're here. That's part of your purpose. You can do anything you want as long as you're not causing harm to people, and the planet, and, our natural resources. You'll be supported by God. You'll be protected in certain senses, but because it's going with the natural law of evolution and what's meant to be. And closing our minds down to saying, I have to have this person, I have to have this relationship, I have to have this job, I have to have this amount of money, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, sometimes limits us to creator, spirit, universe, however you want, to help guide us in the direction that we want. So if I want to lose an addiction, and I pray to God or creator or whatever higher power that that I'm trying to connect to empower the strength and perseverance to release something that is harming me, I'm still going to have to back that up with behaviors that support that prayer. Sometimes it can be magically shifted with mindset, but sometimes it also has some cellular memory, has some emotional attachments, those types of things. So it's going to take a little bit more time to manifest that into an outward manifestation. Now, Anne, I've wondered sometimes, I'm going to put this up on the screen, if I'm doing it wrong and who's listening, and even if I'm doing it right, so that the message gets to God. And I've ever even asked if whoever is listening, if they could pass it on to God. I've mainly been asking for help so that I stop worrying all the time. And I think worry is, I believe that we're supposed to have all our emotions. The challenge is getting stuck in them, because even if you were happy 100% of the time, like ecstatically happy, people would probably want to commit you into a sane asylum because of your behaviors. We're meant to be multidimensional, and worry to me is a valuable thing. When we ask, like I was saying before, when we ask the higher energies, the higher beings, the higher wisdom than our egoic one, right? Because that's part of the illusion of separation, is that we're not already connected with that higher source, and we're asking from an egoic mindset. And a lot of times those mindsets are what keeps us stuck, because we close ourselves off to curiosity. We close ourselves off to wonder and gratitude and appreciation for what we have. And we're always asking for things beyond this moment. And the beautiful thing about presence is that it's always enough right now. Worry comes from living in the future, and we can't control that outcome. It hasn't presented itself yet in our reality to where we can do anything. So the challenge sometimes is not believing in ourselves enough to be mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, ultimately empowered to navigate the circumstances of our lifestyle and our life circumstances. We're given a life. What we do with it is up to us. And prayer and hope and gratitude and seeing things as blessings in our lives, even the challenging things, will help us keep a higher vibration, a higher mindset, a more open heart, so we can stay in that vibration of understanding and grace and compassion. The challenging things don't last as long, and we're able to see the opportunity, the silver lining, as they say, to allow the collective energies outside of us to assist us, while still putting our own energies in to make it happen, or to help allow it to manifest. Um, what are your thoughts on this, Larkin?
Wow, this sounds like a 10-hour workshop to me. We've barely gotten started here.
Right.
I think you hit on some really pertinent points. And Anne Marie, that's a very good question. Welcome everyone else who just joined us. I think that we need a little knock in perspective here, and it is my hope that today's event will help some of you to do that. It's very difficult to take something that you've identified with, such as prayer, have been taught things about and beliefs about, and to become self-aware of your mindset and beliefs about that thing. So, let me give you an example, and then I'm going to take off of what Chris was sharing. Let's say you grew up with parents that every time it rained or stormed, they were like, "Oh man, it sucks when it rains. Just ruins the day. What are we going to do now? Let's see if we've got a good movie or board games. We might as well just, go to the museum because otherwise the day's going to be ruined. And it was your day off school. So what are we going to do?" Think about the impact that has on you. And it's not just the weather or the rain, but you're probably going to grow up to some extent, unless you really fell in love with rain when your parents would say that. You're probably going to think in that 95% of your mind you're not aware of, wow, man, rain just ruins the day. Rain sucks. And then you grow up and you maybe start hanging out with somebody, or you meet somebody that's like, oh my God, I love the rain. Let's go hiking. Or it doesn't matter. We can still go kayaking. What's the problem? And you're thinking to yourself, what the heck, man? Because your belief, you grew up and you put in that 95% of your mind your opinion already about rain. And the truth is that you are a non-physical being. I'm not even going to say a spiritual being. I'm going to say your electromagnetic energy that is conscious. The terms spirituality and religion are man-made terms. They're not universal terms, guys. So I'm sharing a couple of things here with you that are going to help you to take what we share today and the questions we answer and make them very powerful. And I hope that each of you has a notebook, that you're willing to go back and listen to this broadcast again, that you're serious about it, because hearing this once is going to be great. But when you can hear something repetitively, the second, third, 10th time you hear it, that's when it's going to make a bigger impact, because a lot of what we're sharing now is going to be new to you. When you hear it, it's already been introduced to you. It makes a big difference. When we're talking about worry and stress and anxiety, this is something that comes up both in the mindset coaching and in readings all the time. None of us want to be uncomfortable. Worry makes you uncomfortable. None of us we all want to feel the same things. We all want freedom. We all want security. We all want to feel loved and abundant. We all want to feel included and accepted. And we all want to feel successful, right? So there's all sorts of things that we want. Worry kind of creates the opposite of that, right? Worry is one of the emotions that we don't want to feel. But remember, emotions are the mind and the body. So it first has to have been a thought, right? And then you start to feel the worry. Mm-hmm. And so playing off of what Chris was saying as well, our emotions are road signs. And I think Chris was doing a good job of trying to share with you that when we feel something, what is it telling you? What is that telling you? Sometimes it's just a mindset thing. And I'm gonna talk on both sides of this, Anne-Marie, okay? If you're a chronic worrier, which you've heard is like praying for something you don't want. I agree with that. If you're a chronic worrier and it's a habit, you're setting yourself up to create more of what creates that worry. You're not actually resolving the issue, right? So if you're constantly like, oh my God, I'm worried that I'm going to screw things up with so-and-so at work again. Well, what is your focus then? That is your focus. And your subconscious mind, it doesn't know the difference between what you want and what you don't want. It doesn't care. The ego isn't really interested in what you want or don't want. It keeps you in a holding pattern. So if you believe that so-and-so at work you're going to have a problem with so-and-so at work and you're worried about it, then you better believe that the universe is going to deliver for you what you already believe is going to happen. So if you believe that prayer doesn't work for you and you're bad at prayer and your prayers are not heard and not answered, then whether they are or not, you are going to experience, you're only going to be able to perceive that they don't work for you. Okay. And that's a whole nother part of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's up to you to take whatever emotions you're having and recognize your patterns of thought, Anne-Marie, and understand that you can change that. Okay. So there's a couple things there. One, how are your emotions a road sign? Are they a road sign that it's really something you need to worry about? Or are you having a road sign? Is your worry, when you recognize that it's chronic, that you worry all the time, that it's affecting your sleep? How could that be a different message for you? That to me sounds like a message that's saying you're addicted to worrying. You're in a habit of worrying. And the problem with the human mind is we say, and we say it collectively so we believe it, we say, but Larkin, I have this, and this, and they're all real things worthy of worrying about. And what you don't recognize is that you still have a choice. And as you make a choice, that reality shifts. Those things change. Okay, so what does prayer have to do with any of this? Chris was talking about us giving our power away to something outside of ourselves. And the conversation about, is God listening? I mean, honestly, Anne-Marie, and I'm going to read your other comment in just a minute. Your comment is exactly one of the things Chris and I were talking about and why we're here today. These types of misunderstandings and disempowered beliefs about prayer. So many people feel like they're not being heard, their prayers are not answered. I'm going to say this. Every prayer is answered. Every single prayer is heard and answered. The question is, there's a level of trust and faith that you have there, but we don't want to just go magically on blind faith either, right? I mean, you have to sometimes. But when we are, first of all, you don't need anyone to connect you to God or source and spirit. You are already connected. You are already connected. Okay. And there are some aspects to certain sects of religion that teach us that we're not, that you have to go through someone else, that you have to go through a priest. This is not true. This was something added in thousands of years ago that has actually been very chronic throughout humanity, even long before Christianity, because religion is one of the number one great ways to control people and a society. If you can take control of people's spirituality by getting them into a religion, giving them the man-made outline and belief system you want them to have in that religion, and then tell them that they have to go through one of their people in order to be heard by God, then you have the greatest control in the world. So there are very, very few lies that are bigger than that going on. And so many people grow up believing that they need someone else to talk to God for them, that they have to go through a priest or a minister or even a reader. Sometimes that even bleeds over into readings or, like here on this live. Okay. So you already have that connection. The second thing is you are always heard. And then the third thing is what Chris got into, which I think he explained so eloquently, but I think it's hard to get your mind around if you're not accustomed to it, which is trying to find the right way to say this because Chris said it so well. When we are trying to connect and when we pray, we have expectations that we aren't aware of that we have. We have these, just like we do when we manifest or when we go for a reading, our subconscious mind in our society is encouraging a quick fix. We want a quick solution, right? Hi, Rosalie. Welcome. I'll get to your comment in just a minute, Anne-Marie. We'll get to that. But I think this is very, very important. We have to understand that, first of all, the questions you ask, my friends, are as much or more important than the answers that you're wanting or the results that you're wanting from the prayer. I'm going to say that again. The questions that you ask are as much or more important than the answers or responses to your prayer that you receive. If you're asking the wrong question, and I don't like to use the word right or wrong, but I'm using it in this term. If you're asking the wrong question, like Chris was giving examples for, then you're going to get a very different answer. Because your expectation of what's going to happen for that prayer is blocking you seeing that it's happening. Even prayers are answered in a process. So like Chris was giving examples about things that you pray for and you having to be a part of it. You have free will. So just like I say on my live readings, you're a part of your spirit team. You also have free will. And this means that you can't forget yourself, my friends. You can't forget that oftentimes God, source, spirit, your angels, your spirit guides often answer in terms of, okay, great, here's what you need to do. Or here's this person you need to connect with. Or here's the habit you need to change to get an answer to that prayer. When we pray for physical healing, guys, for example, it's not always, oh, boom, within 20 seconds, all of a sudden that physical issue has gone away. A lot of times it's connecting you with someone that says, hey, have you checked out this method or this doctor? Did you know that this food can have this effect on you if you eat it repeatedly? And then you can go, oh my God, I've been eating that food every day for 3 years and that's where I've had that problem, right? So allow God's source spirit to answer your prayers. It's not the old fashioned, just let me hand you this. Here you go. Now we've heard your prayer. If you feel that you're not being heard and nothing is shifting, then you've missed your cue. You've missed the producers holding up your sign saying, okay, they're going to say, Anne-Marie, we got you. Here's where you are. And here's what you need to do next, Anne-Marie. And somewhere along the line, you've missed it. Okay? Now I could go on and on, but let's quick read this question and then I'll turn it over to Chris. I've been asking God to heal me from worrying and I've asked him to take it away from me. Okay, that doesn't work. That's not how it works. That prayer can be answered. But as Chris was saying, it's not just going to boom, go away. You're worrying for a reason and you're missing what the reason is. And you're missing your human part. You're missing the mindset work. You're missing the nitty gritty that you're going to have to do because you don't know how you got into worry in the first place. I've been trying my best to surrender and focus. Yes, that's good. That's a start on the now. But I thought I needed God to help me, if that makes sense. Yes, first of all, you are God. Oh, I sound blasphemous. You are. And that cracks me up. People think that's blasphemous, but here's why it's not. Are we going to reduce God to just being something outside of ourselves? See, religion will teach you that, oh, you're not good enough to be God. No. If God is really so great, I don't like using that term, guys, because the term God is so misused. If God is so great and so above us and so all encompassing and all infinite and powerful, then wouldn't God be a part of every single thing there is? Wouldn't you not be able to get away from God no matter what you do? Even if you don't believe in God, wouldn't that mean that God permeates all things and allows and loves all things unconditionally? You see, so you can create the illusion that you're separate from God and that God doesn't hear you. But the truth is God is all permeating. Okay. So first of all, you are already a part of God. Okay. There's no way your prayers cannot be heard and answered because God hears and sees all, right? Whether we're talking source or Yahweh or the universe, it doesn't matter. Terms are just they're just human made things, guys. So there's a lot for you guys to really get this today and move forward and transform. You're going to have to make some shifts in your perspective and your beliefs and awareness of not just prayer, but of things that you believe, right? In your thinking, you're going to have to make a shift here in order to get the answer that you're solutioning, Anne-Marie. Okay. The other thing is I want to quick mention this and then I'll turn it over to Chris. When you're talking about you surrender and focus on the now, good for you. That's so amazing. Hi, Greg. So amazing that you do that. I'm so proud of you. Please understand, guys, that everything is a process. It took me over 10 years of reading The Power of Now. And on top of that, being a transcendental meditator every day, spending time with nature and journaling. And nature is the ultimate representation of God, guys, even though religion tries to tell us it's not. Why do you think that is? Religion tries to keep us away from our own connection with God. Hello, it comes through nature. So don't give up on the surrender and focus part, but understand that most people, when they ask me, what is the now? How do I get into the now? It's that easy. It's so easy that it's hard because it's actually your natural state. But until you experience it, if you think, oh, I know what the now is. No, you don't. True meditation takes you into the now. The now is a state of being. It is an experience. It's not something we can just explain to you. But as you practice, and I'm going to say this. Sorry, Chris, I'm going on and on here.
No, you're good.
I'm going to say this. All of my clients have to read The Power of Now and Stillness Speaks from Eckhart Tolle. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's Larkin's favorite. There's a reason why. Because he wrote that book, Eckhart Tolle wrote that book from a state of consciousness to your consciousness. And in order to really understand all the things that we're sharing with you guys here, you have to understand that you've got 3 levels of how you're perceiving things. You have your egoic mind, which is the subconscious mind, that 95% of your mind you're not aware of. You have your eternal consciousness, right, which is yourself, your eternal soul, your wisdom, which is the observer behind your thoughts, as Eckhart Tolle refers to it. And then you got your brain, your human brain that allows you to think, okay? Consciousness doesn't think. And this is the first confusion that we have. When you're talking to God, source, spirit, your spirit guides, your angels, they're not thinking. Thinking is a down-to-earth, lower vibrational way of perceiving and being able to communicate and calculate reality. consciousness is always observing through our human mind. So when you're trying to get in the now, Anne-Marie, you don't realize this, but what you're actually trying to do is you're actually trying to get out of your thought and into conscious awareness, which is so much vaster. And everybody thinks, oh, if you're not thinking, you're being stupid. No, not at all. Eckhart Tolle even shares that. It's actually a greater intelligence. Our thought is just a channeled, blinded view of awareness. Okay. So I want to suggest this to you, Anne-Marie. Okay. Worry comes from thought. God's source spirit is beyond thought. So the answers and solutions you're receiving, you're not aware you're receiving because you're so busy worrying, and you're not aware that you are not the thinker. You are observing your thoughts, but you are not your thoughts. Once you become aware of that, you're going to realize, oh my God, everything's actually as it should be. My prayers are being heard and answered. And now I have to decipher what I'm being instructed to do. The goal should not be to stop your worrying. That's the irony of all this. The worrying is your messenger that you're allowing your thoughts to rule your life, and that there's a greater intelligence within you. If the goal is to stop your worrying, it's going to be very difficult. But if you embrace the worrying and you begin to say, okay, what is this telling me? And what shifts is this forcing me to grow into? You're going to have a very different outcome. That, in your case, Anne-Marie, is the correct and the empowering prayer. Greg, we see you, and I'm going to let Chris talk to you about this. Sometimes questions are complicated, but answers are simple. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. So going on, the worries, and one of the things that I know myself have asked is, please give me the strength to get through this, and because the universe, right, is putting me through a challenge, and I'm praying for the strength to walk in a good way, to be my best self, to not react out of past triggers or traumas or fears or insecurities or those types of things. And as we go through those experiences, we realize, one, we're on the other side. That was what we needed to demonstrate that we had the strength. So, for me, worry is putting our energy in things that we may or may not control. So for the advice on worries, whether, it's waking up because, we wake up with them. Maybe we thought about them before we went to bed and we dreamt about them, so we wake up with them. But it's getting clarity on and observing, what is it that I'm worried about? What is it that I have control over? Which is ourselves, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we behave, right? And then what is beyond my control? And when we can list it out, in a logical, reasonable way, that may help put us at ease, at least in the mind, because we have some sense of control. For me, worrying is not being able to be in control. And the more we step into the realm of unconditional love, the realm of the unknown, the void, the infinite, abundant possibilities, however, we want to label these are just signposts, so we can mentally project our attention towards something, and it makes some kind of relevant sense. But I just dropped what I was thinking about. um, um,
When you were
oh
talking
shoot,
about worries, that was very powerful. What
yeah.
worries?
Well, yeah, worries of not being in a level of control. So when we're in the void, when we start living in love, and not fear, it's more encompassing of the acceptance of this is what I'm experiencing holistically, energetically. Whether I like it or not, that's a judgment. And the less we can judge what's going on and just say what can I do, what's beyond my ability to control or influence, the more empowered we can be to take intentional action. But when we're putting our attention on things that we can't control, hey Mark, what we can't change right now, then we're gonna feel disempowered. If we're having health issues and we're not shifting our behaviors and what we eat and what we're thinking and the music we're listening to and the television shows that we're watching. So it's changing our neural connections on a unconscious, super conscious, however you want to label it, basis, because it's always going. It's always observing. Our consciousness is always observing. And the more we can intentionally create an environment of happiness, of health, of wealth, of well-being, the more we're going to tune into that vibration, and then our prayers and blessings are going to manifest in a better way, in a higher way. And for me, prayers and blessings tend to work better when we're giving them to somebody else, or we're using our energy to assist someone else than ourselves. Because when I'm coming from myself, I'm usually coming from the limited part of me saying, this is going to make my life easier. Like people pray for $1 million. And when I hear that, I ask them, well, what would you do with it? And then they're like, oh, I would just, travel and lounge and, enjoy life. And it's like, well, isn't that great? But I don't think that's the whole purpose we came here to be on Earth anyway. I believe that we were given this conscious awareness so we could be caretakers of this planet, so we could care for one another, so we could learn and not live by the animalistic instincts that sometimes we see in our nature. Is an upsetting thought the same as a worry? Well, I would never recommend violence because that doesn't solve anything. And coming from somebody that walked in, um, a violent way in my teenage years. I was associated with a anti-racist movement that sometimes was violent. And what I learned through that experience is my mind was never changed if I got beat up. And I never changed anybody's mind by beating them up. I usually just helped ingrain it a little bit more. Yeah, I understand that's how it feels. And it's trying to take your power back, right? Because you couldn't control that guy lied to you. And it shifted your perspective of the results you were hoping for by investing your energy in the first place. So, yeah, Greg, yeah, you definitely you need your hands for your living. So yeah, you probably don't want to break a digit. That might make things tough. But getting back to prayer, that experience that you just went through, Greg, where that politician lied to your face, you could pray for deeper understanding and deeper awareness. And And why would somebody do such a thing? What things happened that maybe he wanted to be able to fulfill that promise or obligation, but maybe something beyond his control limited that ability to do that. So maybe it's not completely his fault, but you know, um, I would pray for forgiveness and understanding and compassion, um, so it doesn't affect you in in a way that takes you out of your harmonious alignment. Does that make sense? Um, so, um, well, good. I'm glad to hear that you're sending them a lot of prayers. And we've all been there sometimes. We've said something out of the best of intentions, and then we didn't necessarily we weren't able to fulfill that obligation. Something came up, um, something changed or whatever, and we have to roll with the punches. We have to roll with the waves of life. So, the goal is to always enhance ourselves, right? So we have to learn from those limited behaviors, even if it's through somebody else. That's usually a great teaching, because then we don't have to experience that um, negative karma, if you will, from being that vibration. You can go observe it. Um,
Guys, these are great questions.
yeah, go ahead, Outlark.
Do you mind if I know it kind of blocks off our screen, and I'll be on camera in a minute, but do you mind if I put this up there
No, not at all.
so we can see? And we're gonna read this, Anne Marie, and then I want to. There are some segments we need to move on with today, guys, in order to. We want to leave you with a practice and some instruction individually and collectively today. So we can always continue the questions on Chris's and my live on Tuesday. But there are some, we want to take you guys through an experience today and through actually really understanding. Sorry, I'm heating up my coffee. The difference between collective and individual prayer. And really making having a practical understanding in regards to it, as well as, and that's what we're here for. We're here to answer these exact questions. And we want to show you, at least introduce what you can do from here. Anne Marie's question, what should we be talking to God about? Okay, that's up to you. You have free will. This is your life, your journey, your questions. There are no bad questions. So I think eliminating as much as you can the word should from your vocabulary would be excellent, unless you're referring to something that you should be doing to create a change in your life, right? So if you're saying something like, I should make a grocery list because I always spend 3 hours in the grocery and I spend too much money, so I need to organize my thoughts and be more efficient. In that case, should is very powerful. But if we're doing should as though it's a power from the outside pressing in on us, then that's disempowering, right? And so you're going to be doubting yourself. You're going to be doubting your connection. And, there's thousands of years of encouraging and making people, or they can't make you, but encouraging people to doubt their own connection with source. And there is part of our awakening now in life is to encourage people to do the opposite, right? Is encouraging people to be more empowered, to have a connection with source on their own. So, God, again, I don't like using this term, but excuse me, there's everyone has their own connection to God and source and spirit. And everyone has their own personal connection, if you will, or telephone line to God, source, spirit that is equal. You all have a golden thread. You all are listened to equally, loved and respected equally. There's no one that is loved or listened to or respected more than anyone else. The only difference is the conscious level. How aware are you of that connection? How much do you believe in that? Have you gotten in alignment and in sync so that you understand, that beautiful connection, and you have a rapport just like you do with a person, right? Some people might have a better rapport with their boss or their spouse or their siblings than someone else. So this is an opportunity for you to look at that. And then let's see, what should we be talking to God about other than asking for help and thanking him for what we have, or for forgiveness? So again, it sounds like you're coming from quite a religiously programmed background, that perhaps has quite a bit of fear in it. So, first of all, there's nothing you're supposed to be. Second of all, how do we know God is a him? We were taught God is a him, because, from societies where, men had to be in power. And so, of course, we have to make the most powerful thing in the sky a man. But if you're whole, you're both, right? So you can say him, you can say her, you can say whatever you want that makes you feel comfortable. But there are some shifts in the mindset that will be very helpful to you. All is already forgiven. We're on a process of learning. When we, as Greg was talking about, and Chris was responding, when we do something to others, that reverberates back within us. When you feel that you need to be forgiven for something, or, whatever the case may be, then you're obviously aware of something you did that you feel, maybe you have karma for, or maybe you should have done differently. Again, you've been given free will and a safe space to forgive yourself, to learn from your mistake. You're here to make mistakes. Okay, so all is forgiven. You're the one that has to go through that process. And then the other part you said is, it's hard to talk to him about anything else when we don't hear anything back. Okay, but again, you don't know how to hear back. You don't know how to hear back because society has forced a separation between you and nature. And when there's a separation between you and nature, there's a separation between you and your inner voice. So your soul knows that your prayers and your discussions with God are being heard. Your soul knows that there's guidance, but your mind is too noisy for you to recognize what that is in your conscious mind. Okay. So Anne-Marie, what I would say is be very patient and understand two things. Number one, it's a process, and you're going to have to learn some new ways of perceiving, just as though you were learning a brand new language. Okay. You have to be able to hear the responses that God is giving you. You have to think differently and believe differently than you do right now. Just like if you want to speak French and you don't know how to think or believe anything in French, you can't perceive in French, you're not going to understand what they're talking about. Okay? It's really no different. The other thing I would say is, have the faith and trust until you get there. Begin applying, and Chris is going to jump in on this one. One of our favorite topics for each of us, actually, for Chris and I both, is gratitude. We'll do a whole workshop on that too. But when you start finding ways to be grateful for the very things that you're worried about, and that's hard, but real awakening and transformation is you're down in the mud, in the dirt, in the nitty gritty where you don't want to be. And that's what it's going to take for you. You're going to just start taking what you're worried about and finding things in those things you're worried about to be grateful, no matter how small. You are the one that has to turn the train around. I hate to tell you. But God gives you all the opportunities and resources, which leads us, Chris, I think, to the very most important part of this whole topic. which I think you'd be wonderful at sharing, which is what does God really give us? What are we really given when we pray for something? Right? Does he,
Yeah, I mean, I think the what we're given is the opportunity to show up and how much we truly care about it.
Well, I was thinking in terms of what you said the other day, which is the same thing as, it's more valuable, right, to teach someone to fish than to give them a fish.
Right. Yeah, it's how to do it yourself. Not to say do it yourself, but be self-sustainable, to be able to continue on, to hold the faith, to hold hope, to be willing to not be able to see 6 steps in front of you, but just concentrate on the step that you're taking.
That's in the now. Yes.
Yeah. And Anne Marie, just to kind of piggyback off what Larkin said, one of the things that helped me in the journey, because, Spirit does talk to me, and there's voices that come through every now and again, but it's not always consistent, like in English, where I can, that's going to happen. Okay, thank you for speaking to me. I don't always hear that. But I always do hear a response back. And it's usually because I've asked to be shown these through a certain outlet or a certain way. So for me, it's seeing certain animals or birds in nature. When cardinals show up a lot, that's, my ancestors are there to speak to me, to support me, to encourage me to take whatever steps that I'm afraid to be, stepping into, because I've gotten comfortable in a certain state of mind or a certain mindset or belief process. And I'm not ready to let it go yet, because it's not time. And we put a lot of stress on ourselves to be perfect now. And this is a lifetime process, and I think this is part of what does us a disservice through, all this new awoke type mentality, that it happens in instant gratification. And, it's taking these lessons and these experiences that we accumulate through our lives to do the work each and every day to be a better version of ourselves based on how we want to show up in life, and then ask for support from the higher realms, the heaven realms, however you choose to identify in those ways, to work through you, and to give you the opportunity to create that in your life. Because as Larkin was saying about a God, we come from somewhere, from something, and you can never build something out of nothing. So we couldn't be here if it didn't come from something, whatever that is. And how you want to interpret that, how you want to communicate that, how you want to feel about that, how do you want to teach about that and share about that, and all those different things. That's how we pray each and every day. My favorite prayer is thank you and a smile. And I try to do that as often as I can. And the more I can smile at the tough stuff, the easier life can be sometimes, right?
Eckhart Tolle says the most powerful prayer you could ever say, if you just had one prayer, it was the only prayer you ever said, it was thank you.
Yeah.
And this is true. This is true, guys. I think that it's important to understand that when we're talking about prayer, where people are thinking and acting of it as a cognitive, mental, and emotional act. If that's all prayer was, then everything you ask anybody for ever would just be a prayer. Hey, Chris, can you get the broadcast started for me? You mind writing up that outline? Yeah. Say hey to my dogs. Hey, would you guys hurry it up so we can, go potty and get back in the house? People treat prayer as though it's just an isolated human thing. We put our human limitations on prayer, both the way we pray and the way we expect to be answered back. It's almost like, a lot of you, some of you did, but a lot of you guys you did not grow up without cell phones. People's expectations are completely unrealistic nowadays. If you don't hear back from someone within an hour, I have people message me on Messenger all the time. And if I don't get back within a couple hours, then I'm not responding. Really? I have a life outside of Messenger. I have a business, a family, everything else. So we do the same thing with prayer. We measure because we're panicked about the outcome. We measure that. Oh my God, he didn't call. He doesn't like me. Translates to, oh my God, I prayed last night and nothing's changed. It's not happening. We impose these self-limitations. That's not God imposing that. God's not saying, thank you, Chris. God's not saying, hey, if you don't hear back from me in 24 hours, screw you. But that 95, I can't emphasize this enough, guys. You're human. No matter what topic we talk about, that 95% of your mind you're unaware of is creating and feeding you your beliefs, your habits, and reactions. Okay, as a human being, everything is about habits and repetition. So you're going to have to change your habits of prayer, change your habits of understanding and relationship with God's source spirit. If you think you have to pray up there to some big divine power outside of you, and that you just have to get, if you don't get a response or they don't do it for you, he doesn't do it for you, that your prayer isn't answered, you will never be satisfied with prayer. And you will never have powerful prayer. Okay? Moving on to the section where we're helping you understand how to create powerful prayer. Jesus, one and only one of the greatest teachers that has ever lived, taught people. He tried very hard to teach this. You pray as though you've already had it, as though it has already happened, as though you've already received. Sound familiar? Sound like all of the, $4 billion coaching industry people teaching you how to manifest? This was taught over 2,000 years ago. And even before that, people were teaching this. They knew this. Okay. Many of you are coming from a perspective of things aren't the way I want them. I'm unhappy with the way they are. I worry about it. I complain about it. I stress about it. I try to make the change. And then all these disempowering beliefs that come with it. How do you think that prayer is going to have a good outcome? This is a good question to sit with. That would be like saying to someone, I know you hate me and you don't want to be with me anymore, but please don't break up with me. If you stay with me, I'll do everything you want. Is that going to stop a breakup? No. So please understand that you really have to shift your perspective on your relationship with God's source spirit to knowing you have that connection. Whether you're seeing signs of it right now or not, doesn't mean it's not there. It means you're the one in physical form. You're the one with the egoic veil. You're the one with the limitations. So guess what? That means you're the one that has to make the shift. God's source spirit is always, has always, and will always be as he, she, they, them, whoever is. Okay, God is. You're in a temporary human form. You're the one that has limited temporary cosmic memory. So it's your job here. When you guys hear me say, remember who you are, you've got to remember your connection. And the best way to do that is gratitude and getting out in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Gratitude and getting out in nature. If you're not a nature person, you haven't been raised that way, then get yourself under a tree on a bench somewhere, because there's a reason there are people trying to destroy the environment. There's a reason why for thousands of years people have tried to keep you out of nature, in buildings with other people, away from nature, because that helps you remember who you are. Okay. So I hope that helps, Emery. How do you stop awaking bad thought? That's a really good question. You have to start the day before. You have to start changing your patterns,
right?
before and when you go to bed, and it's going to be a process.
Right.
And you also have to, when you wake up, not allow yourself to get up until you have thoughts that are in alignment the way you want to be. No, you're not interrupting, Greg. That's what we're here for. It's a great question. This is a process. When I do mindset coaching, it takes my clients 1 to 3 years to really create transformation. And that's a short amount of time. And one of the things many of them have to do is it takes us, I go through this grueling journey with them for a couple of years or a few years of recognizing your thoughts when you first wake up. You can't just stop them like that. You have to do something with them the night before, how you go to bed, what your habits are, what your beliefs are, what your self-talk is. And then and that's a whole process we're not getting into here today. Right. But then when you wake up, being aware of that thought process and not letting your feet hit the ground until you're feeling grateful. You're feeling better, right? It takes a lot of work. You're going to have to set that alarm an hour earlier.
Well, and good and bad, really. I mean, it's a level of acceptance. So if you just shift the thought of judgment towards it's a bad thought and say, well, thank you, thought, for coming here. What are you trying to tell me? Because you care. That's the unconditional love that's within all of us. That's connecting us to source, all those different things. And that means that you're putting the meaning on a thought or a feeling and energizing that to go towards or away from something that you perceive as not beneficial. And that's when we shift the mindset of everything happens to me to everything happens for me. And I might not be aware yet of how this is going to work out for my highest well-being, but I have trust and faith and love and understanding and compassion that it will lead to that. And putting more energy into that vibration timeline than going down the path of doom and how this is bad and this shouldn't be this way. That should. I always love saying, if you should, you could, but only if you. And then there's the would. Would you actually go do that? Like, yes, I should do this. I could do this, but would I actually do this? And if the answer is no, then you can just let all that go. Or would this help? Or would this be beneficial? Or would this be, those types of things? And really play those scenarios out. It's more accepting the thoughts and the feelings, which I know we're digressing from prayer again. But I think prayer, it's important to understand that it's the thought and the feeling that manifests the prayer. So the more faith we have, the more, not attached to timelines, because that's a man-made construct, again, clock time, but knowing that what's right for me is going to be attracted to me, that I am on the right path, that there is only one path for me. And and the universe is going to help keep me, the masculine energy, grandfather sky, however you want to think about intelligence, is going to keep me within those shores of life force energy until it's no longer, until I'm no longer needed. Do we need to say it to talk? What is the Our Father who art in heaven used for? Do we need it to say it to talk to God? I can't speak on that. I don't have a religious background. It's one of the things that religion's man-made. So what I would say to you there, Anne Marie, is, what does it mean for you? And do you need it to talk to God? Is it something that you need in your life, in your practice, to make that connection? If not, you can just let it go.
I love this question. I love this question because
Good.
Here's the thing, guys. Religion is man-made. However, you can use it as your crutch and your tool for spirituality if you choose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even Native peoples, who Chris and I are, that's really what we're into. I walk the world like, I'm a Native American. Like, that is my church when I go out in nature. But I was fortunate enough, I grew up with my parents allowing me to learn and study and practice and attend services and things in other religions. And in doing that, I was able to, I've studied, so many different religions. And guys, the common threads are all there. So I'm not saying, I'm not a religious person. Religion can be, I want to speak of it as neutral to you guys. Okay. Just like money and anything else, it can be used for good or for bad. Unfortunately, religion has been historically used to control people. It's very much of a political factor. Is it only a political factor? No. Are there truths ingrained and the same thread of truths running through various religions and most religions in the world? Absolutely. The names are different. The labels are different. The descriptions, the practices are different. Are practices and rituals important for human beings? They can be, yes. I don't need them. Eckhart Tolle doesn't use or need them. But a lot of people do. So if you are attached or connected to a practice of a particular religion, that's fine. By all means, I would encourage you to go in depth then in that religion. But understand that religion is the egoic mental connection for a human being to understand, where did I come from? Where am I going? Who created me? That innate intuitive connection to source. We all crave that. Even if you're atheist, you crave that. Why do you think scientists who are atheists, and not all scientists are, some of the scientists and atheists and agnostics that I know are actually the most spiritual people I know. Mm-hmm. They would not like it for me to say that, but they're so integrated. They treat others the way they want to be treated. They use facts, their scientific facts, as their proof and their evidence, rather than looking for, okay, I need 3 signs to come to me today. Native peoples, guys, maybe we don't, or they don't call it a religion, but they also had spiritual practices and beliefs that nowadays in our Western world, we could call their religion. Mm-hmm. Okay. So just because Chris and I aren't locked into a religion, it's because of our conscious awareness and our intuitive understanding of this thread. We're connected to the thread of spiritual connection that we all have versus the religion. So some of you are going to want and need that religion. You have that, you maybe don't feel confident enough yourself. People like Chris and myself we already feel that connection. We know that connection. So we can go into different religions and practices and feel that connection. I am just as comfortable in a synagogue or, with practices from around the world as, I am going into a Catholic church. And people are, oh, I'm going to a Catholic church. Okay, but when I go in for my connection with God. I don't give a crap what songs are singing, what practices we have in there. It's me and God. That's it. It's my connection. Okay. So I do want to say, though, the reason I'm sharing all this is when I was intensely studying Christianity and I was going to a Catholic church every day when it was quiet and I was praying, I was going to services. I loved it. I really wanted to go in depth and practice my own connection. So I've done this both in my shamanic training and in my Christian practices, in my Judaic practices, in my Buddhist practices, which, by the way, is not a religion, it's a way of life, my Ayurvedic practices. I've done this with different religions around the world. And what I've done is I've spent a couple of years very intensely studying and practicing that religion because I've wanted to see how my personal connection felt with each one. During that time, I felt a very strong, I feel personally my connection with Jesus. Absolutely undeniable. Physically in the room with me, physical healings, like taking guidance from that soul, undeniable. The same thing with some of the Native American practices. The same thing with some Eastern practices. I spent a whole year just working with Ganesh, one of the Hindu gods. Is Ganeshi really real? And I had a teacher who was, that's what he did. That was who he focused on. And he'd done this for 50 years. And I trained with this guy. So understand that if you choose something such as, it doesn't matter if it's a new agey thing or if it's what it is, as long as it's good and in alignment, right? It's not something where you're causing harm to others. You will feel the connection. It will become more real. That prayer, Anne-Marie, is actually one of my favorites. When I was intensely studying and practicing Christianity, I really got into, okay, what are some of the power of these prayers? And I was practicing also different prayers from different religions as well. And I noticed the same connection. If you're going to use that prayer, what I did was I would say it literally hundreds of times a day. I would go for a walk and I would use, Our Father who art in heaven. What you will notice if you speak a prayer like that, and I don't have time to get into everything that prayer means right now, you begin to understand what the prayer means. Understand the language has been translated, the words are different than it was initially, but the meaning and the intention is still there. The energy is still there. You say that prayer out loud or if you can't say it out loud, that's fine, for 15 minutes straight, you will start to feel your inner self shift. What you guys need to understand is that prayer isn't just about getting something from the outside. Prayer is about shifting and aligning who and what you are from the inside. So if you say our Lord's Prayer for 15 minutes or more, just go for a walk and say it. You'll have an experience. Let's put it that way. Don't think about other things. Focus on the prayer. Focus on the words. Focus what it means. Within that is grace, gratitude, forgiveness, humbleness, connection. There are all sorts of things that come out of that prayer. And it's not just that prayer, but since you mentioned that, okay? Try it for yourself. Come back. Let me know. Okay. I felt myself just completely shift vibrationally. It was like an earthquake was going on within me. And by the time I finished saying that for 15 minutes or more, I am incredibly at peace. It will align and connect you. Not because it's a Christian prayer, not because it was in the Bible, because that's one of the things prayers are for. Just if you go and you do a Native American chant, or you do a Buddhist chant, or you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Do that for 15 minutes and see what happens. Okay. You'll get a different experience with each one. But Anne Marie, if that's your thing, go with it. That's actually a very powerful prayer. And it was meant to encompass gratitude, grace, forgiveness, getting in your center, and aligning. Okay. It was actually meant for that. I would like to answer this last question here. And then because of how we're running on time, we need to talk about, we're going to talk about collective and personal prayer for you guys before we give you some instruction. I cannot believe how much we've covered in this short amount of time already. It's almost like a whole day workshop. It's so powerful. And you guys have great questions. So it's the connection that makes the prayer powerful. Is that how to do powerful prayer? What a good question. I would say yes and no. Chris, where did you want to start with that? Because the connection is there, actually.
The connection's always there, but it's the faith and trust. And so in a way, yes, because the more you believe that the connection's strong and it's being heard and it's working for you, again, the more confident, higher, enthusiastic energy you're going to be putting towards it. So then you're going to get those things back, where if you're like, I'm just going to try this and see if it works, you're going to get a mixed bag of results.
Yeah, I think for you, Anne Marie, again, we're saying yes and no, but I would say yes. But since the connection's already there, as Chris mentioned, it's really more about your awareness of the connection. Or if you're not aware of it yet, your belief in the connection. I mean, I went decades believing things that I never had proof of. And it was because of my cosmic memory. There were things I intuitively knew and remembered that I wasn't going to give up on. That my intuition was like, no, this is real, no matter how it seems. Just like I am yet to walk through a solid wall. But since I was a little girl, I knew I could walk through a solid wall. I knew it. Well, then I got into my late 20s. Can't believe I was this old when I learned this. And I became aware of the fact that we're 99.999% space. It's a fact. And so is the wall. We're not even solid. So my intuition that I could walk through a wall, my knowing was correct. Science, I mean, we know why, but we don't know why. Technically, we should be able to walk right through the wall. But the molecules don't align. Okay, we'd have to align our molecules with the molecules of the wall in order to pass through it. Okay, so, this is where true faith comes in. Knowing and trusting, a sense of knowing within, as opposed to what you're being told from the outside. Okay. This doesn't mean go off and apply that and say, okay, well, it looks like it's daylight out and everyone's telling me it's daylight, but I know it's nighttime. We don't take it to ridiculousness. Take it to those things that can't be, seen or touched or experienced tangibly in the ordinary, easy way that you're used to. And
it's also true, though.
Have some faith there.
It
is
it's
true.
Nighttime, just not where we're at.
Yeah. True. That is true. But you guys know what I mean, though. Like, don't use this as an excuse for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it's too easy for our mind to do that.
Yep.
It really is. And yeah, essentially, it's always the Earth surrounded by darkness in the universe. The only thing that gives us the illusion of, the blue sky and everything is the light, the sunlight, and the atmosphere. But so yes, it is connection. Work on your connection first. That's the most important thing. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't believe your own thoughts. Don't believe anybody else's. Believe what you know in your heart. And what'll start happening is we get in our reality what we believe. So if you believe you're not being heard and you don't have a connection, you can't help but receive that. That's part of the law of attraction, which is connected to the law of vibration. If you start to believe, despite all odds, I know I'm being heard, I know I'm loved. Chris gave a few really great pointers before. There are two things I give my coaching clients that are in alignment with what Chris was saying. Number one, believe without the shadow of a doubt that everything is always working out for you. If you don't believe that right now, that's fine. Reprogram yourself to believe that, because belief is just repeated thoughts. So this time next year, you can believe everything's working out for me. Do you know what a difference that makes when shit's hitting the fan? And you're like, okay, everything's a process. I know there's a bigger picture here. Just because my ego realizes things aren't going the way I want it to right now, things don't seem to be going my way, doesn't mean they're not. From there on, people go into a downward spiral. So everything's always working out for you. Okay? You gotta, that's something that's very important for you to believe. I think that it's important to understand that we have an individual and a collective. And prayer is very powerful in both ways, although it can be done differently in both ways. The way you pray individually has its similarities and its differences. Jesus also said, where two or more are gathered. Okay? There is power in collective prayer. And as a kid, my parents would take us down near the Edgar Cayce Museum at Virginia Beach. There were tons of dolphins there. And every year they had a transcendental meditation, collective meditation. And we'd all go out on the beach at 5 a.m. and we'd find a spot or go out and stand in the water. And we would meditate for the next 2 hours with whatever our personal mantra we had been given was. And every time the dolphins were there, they knew. They came in. They'd come in as far as they could. They'd jump and play. They'd swim around our legs. They could sense and feel that consciousness because that's where they are all the time. Okay? That is the plan, Anne-Marie. That's what we're going to be doing. Yes. That's why I'm moving us forward here. I'm glad you want to do that. What I want to share with you here is, that wasn't a Christian prayer or a Jewish or a Muslim prayer. It was transcendental meditation. It was individual meditations with people that had individual mantras. And true meditation is not a guided meditation. It's not any of that stuff that's advertised. It's simply stilling your thoughts completely while you are consciously awake, so that you can be conscious as you are when you're not in human form, while you're awake, while you're not sleeping. Okay. The transcendental mantra does that. It takes you on this. It gives you something to focus on. You're matched up with a mantra that matches your frequency. Okay. My mantra is like my best friend. I've had it since I was 4. But all these people that had their mantras were sitting there. So we weren't all chanting. We weren't all saying a collective prayer. We weren't holding hands. We were all actually doing an individual meditation experience, which was also a prayer experience, only we weren't sitting there with intention like you do in prayer. But in a pure meditation like that, the intention of your higher self permeates. So it was there without our conscious egoic mind setting that, okay? And the intention ultimately we all had was for peace in the earth, right? Peace and consciousness. So why am I sharing that story? I'm sharing that so you guys understand as we take you through individual and collective prayer here, understand that if you are like really doing true meditation as well, that can be your prayer. Mm-hmm. That can count as your prayer, okay? Because what is prayer really? It is your eternal consciousness connecting with source, connecting your human self in this form to source at that level. Okay. And I just gave you an example of how powerful it can be when we do it individually, but collectively. Whereas normally
collectively you guys would think of being like a prayer circle where we all hold hands and we all chant together, or we're all in a room together with a candle. It doesn't have to be that even. Okay. But the power of collective consciousness is amazing. And I have to say this, I don't remember who it is that was teaching this. It might have been the Maharishi years ago. I believe it was, who was saying that, 100 people with pure collective prayer or meditation is more powerful than 10,000 people creating acts that are not. So please just keep that in mind. Your collective prayer is exceedingly powerful. Okay. All right. Would it work on the replay if we watched it again? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's energy and it's, yeah.
Yeah. And even if you guys, even if you take what we're going to share with you today and you go and you, my mom and I do this all the time. My mom and my husband and I will just the three of us, we'll take a few moments and the three of us will collectively pray for someone, or, we have that intention. We're not even in the same location, but it's very powerful. And keep in mind, guys, it doesn't mean you're going to get the outcome you think you want when you want it. Allow your prayer to be answered in a process, knowing and trusting that it's being answered, not just being given to you, like Chris said, but that the process is set in motion. If it is intended to be, I always say, thy will be done. Because my prayer is powerful when I have God's source spirit behind me. Right? So if I've known people that have said, so-and-so was mean to my sister, and so I prayed that this and that would happen to them too. It's not the kind of prayer you want to have. You're praying bad on someone, that's going to come back to you. You're praying blessings on someone, that's going to come back to you. Okay? Maybe, there were things I prayed for as a kid. There were people I pray, oh my God, I hope I marry that person when I got for years. Never happened. Thank God it didn't. Right? As Chris was saying in the beginning, God's source spirit, the universe knows better than we do. So sometimes we're praying for something that is not in our best interest or in alignment with other people's free will. And that's okay. That doesn't mean things are not working out for you. Okay. Welcome, Caroline. Thanks for joining us. All right. So, Chris, you want to talk a little about collective prayer, and then we'll get into our practicing something?
Yeah, I mean, I think the if we were to look at each individual as a battery, the more we connect with each other, the stronger the currency. And what really connects us is the intention, as Larkin was saying. It's not necessarily the words, it's not necessarily the practice, it's the intention of why we're there, why we're holding space. That's going to create a ripple effect. And, the native, you might, it's getting popular, the term aho is said a lot now. And, from my understanding, it means, and so it is. And that's a way to end a prayer. It's been put out there. It's been sent out. And so when we join forces, we're amplifying our energy, which has a greater effect. And they've done scientific research on this, to where a group of meditators would be meditating on a certain area for peace, let's say, or the end of violence or whatever. And for a short period of time, that actually did cause an effect towards that result. Now, the challenge being is when everybody stopped meditating and went on to their own life, they broke that connection, and so then it's going to return, because that's part of the process. And so the more we can stay in prayer, the more we can carry our ceremony with us in each breath, each step of the day, the more aligned we're going to be in that state. Did that answer what you were looking for, Larkin?
Yeah, I think that was important because Chris does so much work with collective and community, and works with shamans and spiritual teachers and stuff that do a lot of that. And I think it's important that you guys understand why and how that's powerful, and that it can happen in these different arenas. The story that I shared with you on the beach, even here, if we were to get online and we were to have, like a prayer circle here, which we're calling a sphere because it's multidimensional. There's a lot that goes into that that you don't see, which is the whole point, right? If you guys, if we're praying or we're meditating or we're trying to create miracles, what makes you think you're going to be able to monitor that? I mean, the whole reason you go to a reader or a spiritual teacher or a shaman, or you want to, everybody wants to get beyond what the physical world is. Well, then don't judge what's happening in the physical world. Yes, it needs to have tangible results in this world, but how do you know it's not energetically already happening? You don't know that. Most people cut this stuff off before it even gets a chance of, I don't believe that, it didn't work. Okay, right there. You stopped the miracle right there.
Yeah.
It was in the process of happening. Your free will just said, it's not happening. I don't believe it because I don't see it yet in the way I want to in my life. There it goes. Poof.
Right.
Like manifesting. So you have to allow things, trust in the timing of the universe or God, whatever you want to call it, label.
Right.
But just remember, you're a human being that has human egoic mental judgments, processes, labels, and they limit you. If you want to experience miracles and results beyond that, you have to create space for that beyond that to come into your life.
But also, if we had evidence for every time we did something, we immediately got that result, how hard would it be to remain humble? And then how bored would we get? Ultimately, like if our prayers were answered as soon as we it was like a genie in a bottle type scenario, one, we would totally be super destructive towards everything because everybody wants, this big house and, all this land and, all that stuff. And it wouldn't support everybody's greed, as Gandhi would say. There is enough here on earth for everybody's needs, but not everybody's greed. And that's part of being humble and being patient and being understanding and having grace and gratitude and appreciation for the things that you have now and the things that will come towards you in the future when it's time to have it. We could never have enough food to last a lifetime, because if you're eating real food, it's gonna spoil, because like it's not in the amount of having all this stuff, so we don't have challenges. We can't bubble proof life, and that's important to me, at least, to remind myself as I'm going through this process of sending blessings and prayers and well wishes, however you want to label them. It's just saying, I relate to you. I feel for you. I care about you. I care about this topic. I care about, the planet. I care about nature. I care about this animal. I care about, because that's our true nature. We are caring individuals. And to think that our prayer is more important than someone else's prayer, or, I prayed to my higher source that my team won a football game today. And, that's not right.
big. Sorry, I just
and again, I'm not here to, but when people, thank God for their team winning that day, it's like, what? Well, God didn't care about the other team winning. That really doesn't have, any, that, again, that's where you have to be careful that you're not causing division in what you're asking for or what you're communicating, and understanding that everything comes at divine timing for the right reasons for all the right people that it's going to affect. Thank you for the confirmation.
Well, it's true. No, it's so true though, guys. I mean, so many times you pray for something and it doesn't happen and you're disappointed. I mean, I remember I used to live in Europe. I lived in Scotland and I was going back and forth, and my ex and I at the time were working for his family company, and we had this great trip planned to like the south of France and Germany and all this. And we were going to go fly through the de Gaulle airport. And about a week before, we both started feeling like, we didn't know why. Maybe we should postpone the trip. Maybe we should change the tickets. We couldn't understand why. It didn't make sense. And, sure enough, we ended up postponing. We moved our tickets, which took us through a different airport a week later. Do you know that we would have been, there's a beautiful, for those of you who don't know, or at least there used to be, I don't know if they rebuilt it. There's a beautiful glass dome that is like almost like a conservatory in the middle of the de Gaulle airport. And it's where people can wait. It connects all the different segments of the airport. We always waited in that section. We would have been in that section when that dome collapsed that day. And I get chills when I think about that. So then people say, well, but other people were caught in that. Why was it okay that you weren't, but other people got killed or hurt in that? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That was their journey. This was ours. Okay, does it mean that everyone had that intuition and they didn't listen to it? No. Does it mean that they were meant to die or get hurt? Not necessarily. We each have our own journey that was connected to everyone else. And we just so happen to be able to hear and listen to our intuition. And we can say until the cows come home, well, it was because we heard that intuition that nothing happened to us and we ended up being safe. Is that really true? I don't know. That's how it seems from our human perspective, isn't it? Oh, we heard our intuition, and because we listened to our intuition, we didn't go, but those other people didn't hear their intuition or didn't get it. We don't know that it's like that. I have to stay in my own lane because I can't speak for someone else. We each have our own life soul journey. We choose when we come into this world. We choose when we leave. We choose how we leave. Maybe for those people that got killed and that was how they chose to go out. It was their energetic window to leave. They were supposed to be there. And I guarantee you their friends, family, and colleagues are saying they weren't supposed to be there. Oh my God, they shouldn't have even been there. And I have proof they were supposed to be at this event. Things have a way of working out for the best. We just don't have the broader picture. We only see what's in this physical world, in our own little world, from our own little perspective. And if you guys really want to understand this, you really have to, hi, Tammy Finch, you really have to broaden your perspective. It doesn't mean let everything in, but it means understand you only have this much of what's going on, okay? So I think what we should do first is just take you through a moment of, we've talked a lot about individual prayer and thanking and all of that. I think what we should do, Chris, if you are in agreement with this, is take you guys through a group prayer, one way at least, to allow you guys to share and kind of toss into the pool things that you want to pray about today, because there's multiple ways to do individual and group prayer. I think what we'd like to send you off with today is, if you want to get off of here and you have one or two other people and there's someone or something you want or need to pray for, that you can sort of repeat what we're doing here and practice and begin to feel your own connection. Chris, did you have a way that you like or want to do that you'd like to share with everyone?
No, I think you'd be better suited for that.
See, and I think you would be.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, my friends, is you first have to hold a space. So I think Chris and I can guide this together. We'll both throw in here what we need to do. We'll just walk you guys through this, okay? You need to hold a safe space. Today, Chris and I are creating the base framework for holding a safe space for you guys. We're very used to holding a safe space. It's not necessary, but part of what happens is we need to get your senses. You need to slow your nervous system down, your thoughts and your brain waves down. It works much better if you shift brain waves and you're not in alpha and beta thinking mode. I'm working, I'm driving, I'm in a hurry mode. That's not the frequency for prayer. This is not necessary, but I always encourage people to have a drink, not necessarily a Coke. Candle, incense. I encourage this when I do readings, when you do prayers, even when you do meditation. And the reason, first and foremost, is it does change and shift the energy in your environment. Okay, it cleanses that energy. It helps break down the egoic veil barrier between you and the spirit world, okay, or non-physical. The other thing is a lot of it's what you believe. So a lot of it is shifting our senses. I don't have to do this. I do a lot of my readings and things at the barn where I don't have this, okay? But what I find is that when I have this, especially with a group of other people, and I know Chris does a lot of this type of thing too, when he's doing group events or has shamans come and do group events with and for him. When we can alter our senses, it also says, okay, I'm creating a sacred space for this. So for you guys and for myself, when I have my incense and my candle, sometimes for readings and stuff, I'll make a special tea, like a green tea. I might have soft ambiance music in the background. I make sure the lighting is a certain way. All of this is part of the creating space. Okay, now we're doing this. The rest of the world, leave it at the door. So I'm going to ask all of you right now to take a moment, in the next 3 minutes. I can't teach you guys what the power of now is or how to be present, even though most of you probably think you know how to do it. I guarantee you don't. That's not an insult. It took me over 10 years of intentionally trying to get there, and it hit me by surprise. So don't even worry about that. Just first of all, start out by taking a deep breath slowly and calming your nervous system down. Think about all the things you're worried and stressed about. And I just want you guys to imagine leaving them at the door of wherever you are. If you're in your living room and there's the front or the back door there, please imagine yourself energetically just take it and put all those worries in that outside of the door of wherever you are and leave them. Tell yourself, when we're done with this prayer, I can go back and pick those up. When we're done with this event, which will not be long from now, I can recollect them and put them back on my back. Pick that weight back up. Okay? You're not throwing it away forever. You're just setting it out the door. Okay? This is very important so that we can purely connect with all this life garbage. Okay? That's the first thing. Once you guys have done that, you can do this with your eyes closed or with your eyes open. I want you to just sit and focus on your breathing for a minute. Grace comes as a result of many things. I have found that grace is a huge outcome of prayer. That when I pray for others especially, or a situation, and then I say, thy will be done, miracles happen. So while you guys are doing that and you're focusing on your breath and you're leaving all your garbage at the door, I would take notes on this when you wake up or come back and listen to this again. There are a couple factors that make prayer exceedingly, exceedingly powerful. One is the gratitude. Secondly is surrendering, accepting things as they are in the moment, understanding that anything shifts that are made happen moving forward. So accepting the moment as it is, another huge lesson Eckhart Tolle emphasizes. So gratitude and accepting the moment as it is, surrendering to the moment. Okay? I want you guys to do that as you're thinking about what you want to pray for or who you want to pray for. Along with this, as Chris mentioned, is being humble. Humbling yourself. I know I'm sort of teaching this as I'm running you guys through this process. One of my favorite things to do is to get on my knees and bow so low to the universe. And I say the universe because for me, that's all inclusive. That's God, source, spirit, in every form that comes in. When I do this, I feel powers and energies about and beyond me that are incomprehensible. I am always humble to the point of tears. When you bow to the universe, the founder of Aikido, Murehi Yushiba, said, when you bow to the universe, it bows back. So for those of you that feel like, oh, that's against my religion, I'm not going to bow to someone or something, I'm not going to, humble myself, I wouldn't get down on my knees. Okay, that's okay. But what you give out comes back. When you bow to God, source, spirit, to the universe, and you surrender, what you're actually doing is you're fitting yourself like a puzzle piece into what I see as like the vehicle of all the power in the universe, all the power of God's source energy behind you. It would be like you sliding in to the engineer's seat in a train that is the entire universe. But to do that, you must humble yourself. This is very important. So we have gratitude, surrender and acceptance, and humbling yourself. And that fourth piece, I believe, through all my practicing with different forms of prayer, and then what Source reminded me, I remembered through my soul, which I want you guys to remember for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I experimented with this. So learning it for yourself, there's no replacement, is thy will be done. Letting go then of the control of the outcome of what you want, which Eckhart Tolle teaches in The Power of Now. Okay? Letting go of the outcome of what you want. Okay? This is the most important part. So I want you guys to keep in your mind's eye what it is you want to pray for right now. And as you're putting those four things into place, we get ready to pray collectively. It'll be a lot more powerful, even though you guys are all going to be praying for your own thing. I want to share with you all that when I wanted to discover my own personal healing powers, I had heard that if you pray for 10,000 people or animals or situations, I was taught it as people, but I applied it to situations and animals. I mostly chose humans and animals. That you would begin to awaken your own personal ability to heal. So I started a notebook, 10,000 prayers. I didn't quite get to 10,000, so I need to finish that. 3 times a day, I would sit down and pray for at least 10 people or animals. I'm merely going to say, guys, it transformed my life because I didn't do it for myself. But each and every time I prayed, it reverberated back within me. So just understand that the true power of prayer will be revealed to you when you make the connection, when you have trust and faith in it, and when you practice it. Okay, using those 4 elements I just said, the gratitude, the acceptance and surrender, the humbleness, and the turning over the outcome. Thy will be done. Okay, I'm going to give you one more example, and then we're going to slip into our prayer for whatever it is you have an intention. Years ago, I discovered one of my things here in this world was to help people and animals to cross back over to the other side, which is every bit as sacred as people being born and coming into the world. Didn't want this. I was like, oh God, no. But the key factor was, and it's the hardest thing to do, letting go control. I didn't want the person or the animal to suffer, or wanted them to stay 3 months longer, or whatever the case may be. You got to let go of all that. You can set your intention out there, and then you humbly bow and you surrender. So you can't feel any more humbled. Then you do it more. Then you do it more. And only then, when you have the power of the universe behind you, and you turn it over. Thy will be done. Miracles, not can, will happen. Because Source knows what is best. And you will become the vehicle for that best outcome. And that can happen here too, okay? So I want you guys now to just, you should be feeling relaxed. You should have in your mind the person, animal, or circumstance that you want to collectively pray for here. We're all in this sacred space that Chris and I are holding for you. So we actually have a circular network around the world. We have people from the UK in here. We have people from Canada. We have people from the United States. Okay. And I'm just going to sort of walk you through it now. I want you guys to first focus on the intent. I would recommend, if you're not kneeling and bowing to humble yourself, please at least bow your head. If you need to or want to do the sign of the cross, do that. If you have some other symbol, if you want to put your palms together, if you want to put your palm on your heart, if you want to sit, cross-legged with your palms down. Some of you might want to do it with your palms up. Whatever feels right for you based on your belief system, I want you to do that right now. Focus on your breathing, and in your mind's eye, see whatever or whoever it is that you wish to pray for. You might even want to ask permission on their behalf to pray for them and to ask for something. You might say, I'm so grateful for this ability to request on this person or this animal's behalf. Thank you, God, Source, Spirit. Use whatever term if you're comfortable with. For this person's complete and full healing and rejuvenation. Thank you, God, Source, Spirit, for this person or this animal or this situation's, moving out of the pain and suffering that they're experiencing and into healing and renewal. Begin with the gratitude. Feel the gratitude, guys. You'll see Chris has his hand on his heart. Understand that your heart has so much electricity. And when you put your hand on your heart, the electromagnetic connection is phenomenal. Something that really happens there. Okay. As you do this, what must you do to humble yourself? Are you bowing? Are you letting your head drop? Your chin drop? Are you relaxing your shoulders? Are you doing what I do, where I'm oozing with gratitude and humbleness at the same time? And I'm humbling myself with my face on the ground, literally, where I can feel my whole face and upper body going through the floor. This is because I'm turning my will over to the power of God. Not that God, Source, Spirit doesn't already have it. I'm a part of that. What I'm doing is I'm reconvening. I'm reconnecting with that. I'm merging with that power. Okay. And you set that intention based on gratitude. And then I want you to remind yourself to surrender and accept things as they are. Go back and remind yourself of that, because what you resist will persist. So if you're trying to pray from a place of resistance, where you're judging or you're fighting against the way things are, you are disempowering your prayer. So surrender to that, and then again, repeat your prayer in a form of gratitude. Thank you so much for the healing, the rejuvenation of this person, this animal, this situation. And as you're humbling yourself, then one of the hardest parts here, guys, but you should be in a place of gratitude and humbleness enough that you can do it, is turn it over to God. Now that you've set the intention, you've set your request per gratitude, humbly envision yourself and feel yourself releasing control of the outcome. I like using the phrase, "Thy will be done." Thy will be done. This means that you have trust and faith that everything is working out for you and everyone involved. That God, Source, Spirit knows best. And that you acknowledge that there is unknown for you. That your prayer may be integrated in the outcome from Source. Does it make a difference? Yes. I find once I do this, especially when someone is passing, it's literally just like sitting in a vehicle, and it takes me for the ride, and I know exactly what to do, and I make the right decisions at the right time. This will happen on others' behalf. So this last part, guys, is turn it over. Turn it over to God, turn it over to Source, turn it over to the universe, whatever's most comfortable for you. Release the outcome, and then find your deepest gratitude before coming out of this prayer. You should actually not even have to try at this point. At this point, if you did this exercise correctly, this prayer process, you should already be oozing with gratitude and peace right now. And if not, it's just that you have a lot of resistance going on, and it's going to take some practice. Okay. I would expect it from Chris because he does this all the time. It's a way of life. I wouldn't necessarily expect it from everyone here. It can be difficult to do the first few times because that's not what we're trained to do. Okay. And then take a deep breath. Open your eyes. Come back to reality. Know in your heart now that it's been sent out there. Guys, everything you say and think and do goes out into the universe. It goes out into the ethers. And you can never call it back. So whether you're being hateful to someone or calling a name or cussing up a storm or sending love and healing, once it's out there, it's out there. And it will come back to you in one way or another. Okay? Do this every day in some way, even if you're on your own, and watch what happens. Okay? Chris, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Thank you for leading that wonderful practice. Thank you for everybody that's tuned into this live, and we'll check it out on the rebroadcast, because I think what's been shared here is good medicine, and it's bringing unity together from a stance of what seems to be divided, and I think that's that's the important mission here, is to understand we are one. We are one humanity on one planet, connected by one cosmic source. Whatever the label is, that's what divides it. And when we can hold this gratitude and grace and space for ourselves as well as others, that's when the healing happens. Then we're gonna go ahead and move into our next part, right, Larkin?
Yes. So we came up with some things. I was looking for where this was here.
I dig that you called me Christ in that post.
I know, right? Sorry. Because I'm fixing that right now, actually.
No, maybe Christ consciousness, maybe, I don't know, because
right?
I would never want to claim that, because that would divide me, because we are who we think we are and who we think we are not.
I can always delete that and
No,
I'll fix that.
That's all good.
But guys, so one of the things that we wanted to do, Chris and I, is we are coming up with our first of hopefully several online courses for all of you. And let's see if I can fix, here we go, fix his name here. And we have an event that I am posting. Okay, I'll wait to post it now because I'm doing it from my phone. I'll wait to post it till we're done here. Because I'm putting in all these different, my different pages. What we did today only scratches the surface of what it is that can happen for prayer and transformation. And people are always asking us, okay, well, what are the simple, quick components for things, right? People want to understand what are the simple ways to create transformation or to transcend out of struggle and suffering. I've been teaching this for 15 years. Chris and I both have been working on this. I don't even know how long you've been doing it, Chris. We've been doing this forever. But the thing is that prayer is one powerful component, but there are really 3 G's, which we're not getting into today. We'll get into on the program, but we have created, and we're working on and going to release the beginning of September, a 90-day online course called the 3 G's. And basically it's going to be how to accept and embody the present. Well, Chris says it perfectly here. Heal the past, embody the present, and enhancing the future. And it's essentially helping you to step into your power so you don't feel so lost and helpless with whatever it is you're struggling with. So that the things we talked about today, you can start to understand, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel my prayers aren't answered? Why do I have habits and patterns of struggling and suffering, right? We're going to help you in this 90-day course to understand that and to become aware of what you need to do in order to create those shifts, okay? And during this course, basically, you're going to have online modules that you can do at your own pace. And then you're also going to have once a week a mastermind with us where we answer your questions just like today. And we actually walk you guys through the process, okay, of what it is you need to do, and give you that guidance. The course will then be yours to keep, so you can always go back and reference it. But this is our way of working with you intensely, okay? So what we've done is we've created a special offer for those of you that came and stayed today. If you're interested in it, I posted all the information right here. And the course with all of its materials and all of its mastermind time we have all the prices right here. And we're basically going to be giving you, let's see. I'm looking at what I wrote here. You basically get Am I adding this up right? Yeah, $300 off the course if you sign up in the next 48 hours for it. Okay. And if you do, we have a little special pre course jumpstart sheet for you guys, so you can start preparing for what we'll be working on and what the online course material is going to be in September if you don't want to wait. But September's still going to come super quick. We only have like 6 weeks, right? So after that, after the 48 hours, the course is $595. Guys, it is, I used to sell courses that were $30,000 and up. This is a very inexpensive. By the time Chris and I split it and we pay our taxes on it and we pay everything else, we'll be lucky if we each make $50 off of each person for 90 days, to be honest. But we do pay like for Steamyard and for the things that we'll be using and putting together to make the course. So if we didn't charge for this, we would literally, it would be paying for everyone to be doing this. So we have to charge something in order to not go broke and pay for everyone who signs up. Okay. So if you are interested, you have until noon on Tuesday to actually follow the link here and to register. If you would like to join us, you get $300 off. That's more than half off the course. And we're going to teach you what the 3 G's are. I do not have installments set up, Anne-Marie. I can look at my website and see if I can do it in like 2 payments. I can check and see. With anything under $1,000, I typically don't do that anymore because I just find that it's too much hassle. But I'll see if I can do that through my website. I'll see if that gives me an option so I can split that in half. Okay. I did that for years with my coaching, and I will check that out. That's a very good question. Okay. But basically the outline of what we're going to do is on here for you guys. And if you're interested in joining us, I think it's going to be an amazing experience, and it's going to give you, 12 intense masterminds with us, plus all the course materials and videos that we're going to have. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to share about that?
I'm excited to be a part of it. I know it's going to be transformational. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for September.
To be able to work with both of us, honestly, guys, for that price, that intensely, is going to be pretty cool because you basically have our brains to pick that whole time. The material is going to be amazing, probably more than you can possibly get through in 90 days. So it will be yours to keep. You guys will be able to go through it. And if you sign up, like I said, by Tuesday at noon, you guys are going to get a special pre-guide worksheet that kind of guides you how you can prepare for the course before you even get started. And I think that's going to be super cool. Plus you get the $300 off. So I'll look into that, Anne-Marie, and we'll see if there's a way I can do 2 payments on there. I'll see what I can do. And then when you go to the link, there'll be that option. Okay. I'll see if my website lets me do that. I don't know. I've never done 2 payments on my website or not on that website. So, all right, guys. And if you know anyone else that's interested in that, let us know. We are going to be having other events like this prayer circle coming up. So if you have not liked our YouTube page, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube page, Enhancing Your World with Larkin and Chris, if you have not followed us on social media, Chris actually also has, I do too, but I haven't been using it. He has, what's your Instagram page called, Chris?
It's Enhancing Your World.
Okay. You guys can find that. They wouldn't let us hook it to Steamyard today, but it is available if you guys are interested in that as well. Okay. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, please share with us back in the comments what your favorite part was as your little mini testimonial. So next time people know what they have to expect. Okay. And keep us posted on the results of your prayer.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Much love and gratitude for everything you are, everything you do, and everything you continue to choose to be. And we'll see you on Tuesday.
See you Tuesday at noon.
All right. Bye-bye.